policies.
Gentleman, Colonial Heights, Mr. Cox.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to speak to the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of HB 576. Let me say, first of all, I think the gentleman from Stanton has done a very good job in compromising on the bill, going from a one-year annual contract to a three-year annual contract, and made some other very key changes. But let me tell you why, as a 30-year school teacher, I think this is a very good bill. I've had the wonderful opportunity to teach with great teachers, probably more great teachers than mediocre teachers and bad teachers, but I've taught with mediocre and bad teachers. We've talked a lot about great teachers on this floor, and that should be the emphasis. And I think every single person on this floor can point to a teacher that's probably given them the passion and the desire to do what they do. And I know as a 12th grade government teacher, that's my one hope. That kid that I get my one shot at him in 12th grade government, that I can impart a passion for this unique system of government that we have. I take the kids that have no interest and really get them passionate about government. But we're kidding ourselves if we don't think they're mediocre teachers and they're not bad teachers. And you go to any public school in this Commonwealth and they can tell you who the bad teachers are. And the reason why they can tell you who the bad teachers are is because they've been there for years. You can ask the school secretary, you can ask the other teachers, and more importantly, you can ask the students and the kids. And we hear so much in this House about let's do it for the children. And this is one that I really want to emphasize for the children, because a bad teacher can have a profound influence on a kid's whole academic career. I mean, think to yourself of the bad teachers you've had. And look at some small school systems that might have 2 middle school 8th grade math teachers. That's it. You got a 50% chance of getting one or the other. And I got one of those when I was in middle school. And math was not my best subject. And that teacher was really bad. Had absolutely no control over the class whatsoever. It was a year wasted, an entire year wasted. Because remember, you're covering a whole year's worth of material. And I never liked math from then. I sort of got through. As a matter of fact, I can remember when I was at Madison, I had to take my one math course. When I finished, I threw my book in the lake. That's where it still is, in the bottom of the lake. And that's a real true story. I can remember my first teaching experience in middle school. I taught next to a gentleman who was a gentleman. He was nicely dressed every day. He'd been teaching for 25 years, never made any waves. He wrote 25 history questions on the board every day. That's all he ever did. If you didn't finish them in class, you did them for homework. He had the same bulletin board up for 10 years. And since he never made any waves and we had a good administration, he was there for 30 years. And I used to frankly resent that fact, because I really worked hard at my profession. I was always trying to look for a way to help my kids do better. And he could care less. I taught next to one teacher that seriously let the kids do whatever they wanted to do. He told them if an administrator walked in, you turn to page 400 in your book and you pretend like you're working. And for years he did that. He was a legend among the kids, you can imagine. And I've taught next to teachers that have so little control over the class, I can't hear myself actually teach. And I tell you who really suffers in that situation is the 8 or 10 kids in that room that really want to learn, okay, because they don't learn anything for the entire year. There was a recent article in the Washington Post that said that about 1.3% of teachers were dismissed in 2007-2008. In Fairfax County, where there are 14,000 teachers, 2 veteran teachers were dismissed for cause and 2 others resigned before they could be fired. That's 4 teachers out of that many. And you just cannot tell me there are not more bad teachers than that. And let me talk a little bit about the evaluation process, because I've been through it many, many times. And maybe I'm strange. I like being evaluated. As a matter of fact, I used to invite assistant principals into my classroom, especially if I had an exciting lesson that I thought was sort of different. But they also come in unannounced, and that's good for you. Because on that day, maybe you didn't prepare as much as you should have. It's a nice wake-up call that I can do a lot better. I've kept every evaluation I've had for the last 30 years, because for me, it's a reaffirmation of what I hope I'm doing well. And so what this bill will do is, I think, have an essential reform for K-12. Now, the gentleman, the minority leader from Charlottesville, I thought stood up and gave a very good speech on K-12, but if you looked at his speech carefully, and I will give him credit, He talked about adding more money to K-12 and how to pay for it, and I think that's a very essential ingredient. Well, you'll notice if you look at the speech carefully, there was no reform whatsoever in there. If you've noticed almost all the speeches on the other side of the aisle on K-12, there's never any reform. And we are naive if we think that public education is perfect. It's not. It's good. And I would teach nowhere else. But if you don't think we can make the system better, I just think that's wrong. If you look at higher ed, we had a bill last year that fundamentally changed the way we did higher ed. You go to this body. The gentleman from Bedford will tell you about the days where the Capitol Police guarded appropriations and heck didn't even let certain members in the room. We do rule changes every year down here to make this process better. We can make K-12 better by passing this bill, a prudent bill that will assure us we have the best quality teachers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.